Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to another week of Ask Coach Marie. I'm Marie O'Neill, founder of Padma Life Coaching, and your host on this series. This is the place where you ask a question, and I give my unique opinion as a life renewal coach, astrologer, and past life regression facilitator. Please know that I am not a therapist, and I will never tell you what you must do. Each week on Friday, a new video is released with me answering 2 questions from the viewers. I also talk about various other life renewal topics. So let's get going with the questions for this week. Our first question comes from Allison, who is in Calistoga, California. Allison writes, I've been having a discussion with a friend about Buddhism. She says it's a religion, but I'm reading that it is not. Is it a religion? That's a very good question, Allison, and thank you for asking it. So in some circles, Buddhism is considered a religion because there are practices, there are ways, there are rituals that need to be followed, and therefore some people consider it a religion. The Buddha and the Dalai Lama do not consider it a religion. It is a way of life, a way of being. It is a way that you can achieve enlightenment. It's designed to help you get through life, to actually see life as it actually is, to deal with the challenges of life, and to determine, or actually to see who you actually are at your core, because the axiom is always to know thyself. If you practice it with the intention of getting to know who you are and actually being able to work through trauma and karma, if you practice it that way, then it is not a religion, in my opinion. However, if you are practicing it just for the ritual purposes or just to have a place to go to worship, then it would be a religion. In Buddhism, there is the belief that each of us has Buddha nature within us, and that Buddha nature is all-knowing. It is enlightened, and we are here to discover who we are. So I hope that helps. I know that it still might be confusing to you, but I personally don't see it as a religion in the way that I practice it. However, it can be perceived as a religion if you are practicing it just to have the rituals, just feel good, or have a place to go to worship. So I hope that answers your question. Now, we are going to talk about enlightenment. And this is one of those topics that is pretty deep. I am only going to touch on it here just a wee bit, because I've heard people talk about enlightenment and be confused or about what it is. Enlightenment is really just being able to see reality as it actually is. In addition to that, it is working through as much karma or dropping as much of the baggage, emotional baggage that you have, so that you can see clearer reality, so that you can actually be. You can not only see who you are, but you can live from that knowing. Basically, you shift. You are able to see others as they actually are also. And when I say seeing them as they actually are, you're seeing each person as the divine being that they are. You're seeing their essence. It may not be how the person is living their life, because we all have personalities, and sometimes you're living your life in a particular way that doesn't indicate that you are a divine being, but that's actually who you are. And so the person who is enlightened sees you as that divine being. Not only do they see it, they know it, but they also know themselves at that. When a person reaches enlightenment, as I said, they have dropped the dross of who they are not. Some people actually can create their rainbow body, meaning they drop their physical form and they dissolve into light, all the colors of the rainbow. Most of us here on the earth plane are unaware of who we actually are, that we all have the Buddha nature and that we are all Buddhas, which is the enlightened one. That is really what Buddhism means. So that's just a little bit about enlightenment, or at least what I wanted to relay to you today. I'm sure I will come around and talk about this topic again at a future time, but just to whet your appetite on enlightenment, that's what I wanted to do today. Now, our next question comes from Barbara, who is in Knoxville, Tennessee. Barbara asks, what is your opinion about using psychedelics as a spiritual practice? First of all, Barbara, I've actually never used any type of drugs other than drinking some wine. I've never done marijuana or cocaine or any of the psychedelic drugs. So I'm not able to speak to this topic from experience. My understanding, however, is that they are, of course, being used and people are getting visions, which is wonderful. You can gain insights about yourself through using psychedelic drugs. Now, you can gain these insights without using the drugs. You can do it through meditation. You can do it in asking a question to your higher mind and getting an answer without the psychedelic drugs. The Dalai Lama has weighed in on this topic too. And of course, he is not a proponent of using psychedelic drugs to gain enlightenment or as a spiritual practice. One of the issues that I have is when you gain insight into something, is it something that is lasting when you have psychedelic drugs? Meaning you get the insight, but does that change your awareness? Does that change the way you live your life? If it doesn't, then the psychedelic drugs haven't achieved the goal. I would love to have you or anyone who is listening to this video let me know what they think about using psychedelic drugs as a spiritual practice. I do know that when we cross over, this meaning when we die, the process of crossing over affects our next life. If you have someone who is on morphine, which, sometimes you do need to be on morphine if you're in pain. But if you have somebody who is on morphine or you have somebody who is just out of it when they cross, it affects their next rebirth. I don't know how it affects it, but I do know that it does affect it. And that is what I've been taught. So when you cross over, you want to have as clear a mind as is possible. And once again, with psychedelic drugs, the jury is still out as to whether or not they can be used for or should be used as a spiritual practice. I don't think that they should be used as a crutch, but they may help. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. If you have questions that you would like me to give my opinion on, please email me at padmacoach@icloud.com. That's padmacoach@icloud.com. You can also reach me through my website if you'd like to learn more about what I do or work with me as your life coach and or astrologer. My website is padmalifecoaching.com. You can also read about me in my memoir, which is And the Lotus Opened, a Memoir. This memoir can be found on any of the online bookstores. Well, that's it for this week. As always, I wish you well on your journey through life. Please feel free to email me and let me know the questions that you might have. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.